On Labour Lens this week, the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, issues 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to address extortion of tanker drivers by security operatives. Also, Chemical Workers Union pickets NICIL complaining over disengagement of workers without benefit, while the Aviation Workers Union accuses Minister of underhand tactics in airport concession. We will also tell you about the protest by the Joint Health Workers Union against disparity in the payment of COVID-19 hazard allowance. These stories of agitation by organized labor over continued rendering of workers redundant without due process or honoring collective bargaining agreement will form the basis for our discussion on the program. The man leading the oil and gas workers in their struggle is my guest. Ellen, welcome to the program. I am Sharon Ijason. Let's take a moment. These are workers of NICIL Manufacturing Company, Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. According to them, they were shut out of the company where they have been working for a while. According to them, this was done without prior notice. They claim they have been working actively before COVID-19, during the lockdown, and now.
From the account, there are some people that has placed order over 120 million as I speak to you now. So, and we are on it, but it was unfortunately that we got here yesterday preparing to work. The next thing we see is that we are being locked out. COVID-19 has not affected our production or our products since the pandemic COVID-19 happened. It has not affected us because we have been working. Even the sales has been going on, and there was no any problem from any angle of the sales or the productions.
The national president of the Chemical Workers Union says it's the third day that the union will be picketing the company. He insisted that the union will continue with the action until a proper meeting is held to address the situation.
Most of the things that the workers are enjoying, they have just stopped it without negotiation, without anything. They have any discussion with them. So I think what is even about what he tried to do is for him to stop the union.
Told the MD that look, we can't hold any meeting with you until you open this gate. If you open the gate, we are ready to meet with you. They said they are afraid. We told you don't be afraid of anything because they have a negative motive. That is why they are doing like this. So let the whole world hear that the chairman of this company is anti-worker, anti-labor. He wants to turn this place to a contract staff place, and the union will not allow.
The management of the company were not available to react to why the workers were stopped from working. It will be recalled that the federal government has encouraged employers not to disengage workers as a result of the pandemic, as intervention funds will be disbursed to those in need.
About a week after the National Association of Resident Doctors suspended its nationwide strike, another key organ of Nigeria's health workforce is threatening to down tools. The Joint Health Sector Unions, JOESU, said it would be left with no other option but to embark on a nationwide industrial action if the government fails to amend what it's described as gross discrimination against its members in the implementation of the newly approved inducement and hazard allowances for medical workers. The association is also protesting, among other issues, the alleged withheld salaries of its members. Hazard pay, a wage supplement paid to workers who do dangerous jobs, has been the grouse of Nigerian health workers since the advent of the coronavirus pandemic. Health workers, being the first respondents to patients, have continued to be at risk of exposure to coronavirus. Although health workers have been advised to use full personal protective equipment before attending to patients, many do not have access to this equipment, and as a result, nearly 1,000 health workers have tested positive for coronavirus in Nigeria. The Nigerian government had promised a special coronavirus hazard and inducement allowance of 50% of consolidated basic salary to health workers in Nigerian teaching hospitals, federal medical centers, and designated coronavirus centers. Prior to this, Health workers receive 5,000 naira as hazard pay across board.
I want to take, for instance, an ambulance driver. We all know that an ambulance is used in conveying patients from one place to another, and an ambulance driver is part of the frontliner. All right, we have to move patients from one place to another, and you are telling me somebody who is moving patients from one place to another is not an health worker, and so will not be remunerated. We have a case of a catering officer, all right, who equally will serve food to the patient, because there are some patients on special diet. All right, the dietitian will have to prescribe what to cook. These people will have to cook according to the prescription and will go to the ward and serve this particular patient. They have contact with patient. They serve them for that reason. And all of a sudden, the Federal Ministry of Health categorized these people as non-health workers. What is the difference between a pharmacist who serves drugs and a catering officer who serves food to the patient?
The work in the health team is a teamwork. No group, no professional group can do it alone. All over the world, WHO classify healthcare service as a team, a multi-professional teamwork. But what government is doing in implementation of this intervention of remuneration to encourage health workers is breaking the team, is further breaking the team, because ab initio, since 1985, when Decree 10 of 1985 was done by Babangida, as was misled by Olukoye Ransome Kuti, health sector has not known peace in Nigeria. There has not been good team relationship. But with this COVID struggle, we are beginning to find our feet to come together as a team. But this team relationship that is nascent now, we call it nascent team relationship, coming up in the health sector. The Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Health is breaking this team relationship further by the implementation of what they are doing.
The National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, is not happy with the security situation across the country. The union issued a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government and relevant agencies to address the situation. It says tanker drivers complain about continuous extortion by security agents at different checkpoints across the country. During the press conference, the leadership of the union called on oil companies who have rendered workers redundant without paying their benefits to review such action.
From our meeting, we discussed the issue of the bad roads that our tanker drivers are going through in the course of discharging their national duties. And we also talk about multiple roadblocks, especially in the Warri axis, from Bini down to Warri, Sapele. These are the areas where we have multiple roadblocks, checkpoints, and what are they there for? They are purely there for extortion and harassment of motorists, most especially tanker drivers. Because everybody believes that petroleum workers are very rich, and they see them as their ATM. So severally we've been complaining about this, and right now we want to put a stop to it. So we are calling on the federal government to call all the security agents to order, that petroleum tanker drivers are on essential duties. If you check their paper, allow them to move. It's quite unfortunate that it is in bad spots on these deplorable roads that they set up these checkpoints. They compound the problems of tanker drivers who are trying to maneuver across these deplorable roads, and these are the same points, they will be extorting money from them. So we have resolved to give federal government 2 weeks to address this twin issue of bad roads and extortion from the security agencies. From next week, Monday, we've instructed all our tanker drivers to start putting green leaves in front of their trucks. That will go for 1 week. The second week, we're going to start 2 hours morning prayers at every loading point across the country, and everywhere tanker drivers are having their stopovers.
Let's continue the conversation with the rise in unemployment rate in Nigeria, which is worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic brought about several economic issues like work closures, redundancies, and unfair labor practices by some employers in the oil and gas industry. Unfortunately, some employers in the industry have been exploiting the situation to embark on unbridled declaration without any form of empathy or consideration for the productive effort of these workers. Joining me on the program is the National President of NUPENG, Williams Aquaria. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Sharon. Thanks for having me once again.
It's been a busy week for NUPENG. Can you tell us why it's important for NUPENG to issue the 2-week ultimatum to the federal government?
Yes, we had a virtual National Executive Council meeting, and issues affecting members in the oil and gas sector were straight. And among them were management that have used the opportunity of the COVID-19 to terminate workers, and especially union-organized workers, because we found out that even in the same operations, workers that are not organized are not threatened. They are the ones that they call for duties, while members that are organized, are the ones that have been threatened with downsizing, reduction of salaries, and based on that, we came out with those positions.
Talking about unionization in the oil and gas sector or in any sector whatsoever in Nigeria, looking at what, taking a cue from what you said, that those that are not unionized are not victimized, would you say that some employers of labor are trying to capitalize on the situation right now, which is that COVID-19 has reduced productivity in some sectors, and therefore probably layoffs is what is essential at this point?
Yes, unfortunately, that is the situation we are having on ground. The fact of the issue is that Nigerian employers really don't want organized workers. They don't want workers to be organized into union in their companies. We have a lot of them that once worker indicate interest to want to organize into union, they are threatened, and in more cases victimized. So, and in this COVID-19, that is exactly what is playing out now. Even when we are aware that there are jobs, even when we know too that the workers are engaged in essential services, we have so many of these companies that have used the opportunity, to push members out. But that does not mean to say that we don't also have employers that doesn't, go that way. We have employers that even when they kept workers at home, have continued to pay their other allowances in full, and even salaries. So apart from that, some have even gone to also even provide some stimulus packages, to them. We have such employers.
Moving away from the need for unionization of workers across all board, during the press statements that was released and the press conference that you had recently, there was this issue of the rising insecurity in the land and how about 9 of your members are currently kidnapped. What is your take on this, or what's the union's position concerning some of your members that have been kidnapped?
Yes, that is one unfortunate situation we have in our hands as we speak. None of our members, were kidnapped, and until now, as we speak, there's no word from the kidnappers. Their families are resting. Even the leadership of NUPENG today, we are also resting. it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that, you know, at this point, for a production platform in the high sea, you know, that kidnappers can still have access to workers, you know, carrying out their legitimate duties. You know, what is so worrisome is that even on that platform, there are security operatives. They are supposed to be on alert. And how that happened, you know, it still beats our imagination. But however, we're still waiting for details. But the whole thing, you know, borders on what I would call, you know, the inactive position of the federal government to appropriately tackle security. You know, but it has been on in the north, you know, where persons, you know, are being killed like chicken, and gradually now is not, you know, coming back to the south. So I don't know at what point, you know, we think that we are safe in this country. We've sent a word to federal government that those members should be released unharmed and unconditionally, and that is the clear position of the union. We are still trying to engage ourselves on a proper, probable next line of action.
Okay, moving forward, the ultimatum still stands that in 14 days, you're expecting the government to call security operatives. From findings, you accused the uniformed men of harassing tanker drivers who are actually members of your union. Can you expatiate what's the plight of an average tanker driver while trying to carry out his daily activities, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic period?
That is also a very ugly trend we are experiencing, you know, in our highways. Our tanker drivers are taking on that responsibility to move this product from one place to other are continuously being harassed along our highways by security operatives. Though we know what they are doing is illegal, but we have the belief that that can be curtailed. The echelon of such agencies should be able to call such persons to order. It's very rampant among the southern part of the country, you know, especially along the Delta, Edo to Kogi, and, you know, crossing rivers to Calabar, where we have, you know, majority of the depots, you know, and it's very, very unfortunate that even when you know that the man is carrying genuine product, you know, you harass him to the extent, you know, where he's made to part with, you know, so much money before he can continue his journey. That is what we are talking about. This cannot continue because these persons are carrying products, flammable products, that does not belong to them. The owner of the products are at home. So why do you need to subject, you know, an innocent tanker driver that's doing product, you know, to that kind of harrowing experience all the time? Sometimes they are even delayed along the highway for hours until they part with, you know, whatever amount. I would say this can't continue.
Okay, very quickly moving forward, there's the report in the oil and gas sector that many of your members have been rendered redundant without payment of their benefits. Can you tell us what the next in session position is as regards this development?
Yeah, we had a clear case of one valiant Nigeria company. It's a Nigerian employer. He's into manpower contracts, you know, in the drilling sector of the oil and gas. And this man has a patent of employing workers and not pay them. We have in history that even the issue of sea wolf, it was behind them, you know, and how he possibly pulled out the workers there and declare his company bankrupt. Today, those workers have not been paid their entitlement. And now he's back to the drilling sector now, working with bore drilling. And the first time he has the opportunity of working with Shell, with Total, with Total and Shell. He initially worked with Total, and the same group of workers, he also carried them to Shell, for drilling operations. Immediately after that, he came up with a story that he need to reaccredit the rig, and that the workers should come out of the rig, for a while. That once the rig come back, he will contact them back, and that was it. Immediately the workers came out, he employed other persons, to replace them. Even their last month's salary of October was not even paid. Their terminal benefit, as indicated in their CBA, was also not paid. Everybody has tried to reach out to him. He has continued to also remain evasive. So those are kind of the employers we see in the industry. And I'm surprised today he's still working for Shell. Such persons shouldn't be given the opportunity to employ Nigerians. And we are using the opportunity to ask that DPRO NUPENG to stop giving that man any contract.
Who is this person in particular that you're talking about, if I may ask?
We're talking of Mr. Abdullah, is the managing director of that company. What he does mostly is immediately he employs somebody, and work for a few months. He will go and register other companies. As we speak, he has registered about 5 companies where he employed 2 or 3 persons, for his operations.
So, like, how many of your members are affected at the moment?
So far, I think about 50 of them. 50 of them were affected in this particular issue we are talking about.
And apart from him, generally, the international oil companies, would you say that they've been cooperative during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, we have also tried to engage them, and their response is the man, especially in case of Total, said that the man have finished working with them, that the contract with them has elapsed, and don't have anything to do with the man anymore.
This brings us back also to the issue of casualization, outsourcing, insourcing of workers. What has always been the union's position towards this?
That is also a challenge we are also facing. In Nigeria, the way things are done is different from the way they are done elsewhere. There are these contract staffing, in other clients, but they are not carried out in this manner. Everybody follows the rules strictly. But in Nigeria, we try to double team, and go through shortcuts, to achieve, selfish gains. Because even if you are we are not against contract staffing anyway, but a worker also deserves it's a entitlement. Because once you say we are against contract staffing, now they will say, is Nigeria the only country where the oil, where we have oil production being produced? That happens everywhere. But okay, is it the same practice elsewhere? These IOCs that are operating here, they're also operating elsewhere. Is that how they engage contract staffing? And once you give out manpower contract, such worker does not have right to belong to union and also agitate for his welfare. So these are the issues we are saying. The Ministry of Labour has also tried to engage them, but we also know too that the Ministry of Labour has limits. Their role, as in constitutional right, is only advisory. And once they advise, the employers will say, well, that is not acceptable to them, and they'll continue to go their way. And who bears the brunt at this point, are the workers, who are also the masses. So our position here is that management, NUPENG and DPRO should also watch the caliber of persons they even give this contract to. Because there are so many dubious persons out there, who are just there to impoverish Nigerians. They want people to work for them without paying them their dues.
So would you say that you've gotten feedback from the government, especially when it concerns the 2 weeks ultimatum that the union has issued to them?
Well, before now, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources engaged myself and the PENGASSAN president, and he said he was going to get back to us. We want to believe that before the expiration of the 2 weeks, some positive effort will have been made and the issue will be resolved.
And if there is no
That's it.
positive, if there's no positive feedback, what will be the next line of action?
Well, we want to get to the bridge. Then we'll know how to cross it.
It was an interesting conversation I had with you. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you once again, Sharon. God bless you.
Though the federal government and other stakeholders have implored employers of labor to prioritize people over profit as government will be of support, thousands of workers have continued to lose their jobs stemming this problem demands synergy from organized private sector, government and labor. That's the much we can take on this edition of Labor Lens. Join us next week as we continue to discuss how the coronavirus pandemic has affected the world of work. I am Sharon Ijatson. Do not forget that labor creates wealth.